So welcome to Module 1. In a sense, if you do all of the written activities in the session tasks and watch this as well, you're getting the same information twice over. But that will help it stick. And also, different people prefer different media, and everyone has their own I+1 moment, so looking at it twice in different ways means there's a higher chance of all of it sitting neatly in your understanding. But also because a lot of people find the course quite bewildering at the beginning. Just about by the time you've finished it, you think, okay, right, I get that. I get what I'm supposed to do and how to study and how it all fits together. And much like learning a language, and your students, when they come into class, we do try and help you understand what you're getting yourselves into, but you probably will just about have got really the full picture by the time it finishes, but an awful lot of things in life are like that, I find. Maybe you do too. This first session, there are two purposes. One is for you to get to know things, partly other people on the course, but more basically what the course involves to some extent. And the other side is, as will happen in some of the other sessions, that will introduce you quite directly to the very first two tasks that are in paper 1. So thinking about the very first purpose of those, there's a quick inside view coming up of the getting to know you as it happened. If people came into the building, I like to, you probably have your own favourites, I like to use talking circles quite often, or mill drills as ways of getting people to introduce themselves to each other at the beginnings of things. And there's a quick overview coming up now of how that worked in one of the sessions we ran here at ITI.
Okay, face to face, and spread out a bit so there's not too much noise interference. Super. Bit more. How much the room will allow? Let's go for it. That's super. Okay, so in a moment, what I'll do is give you a topic to talk about. I know you want to exchange names. Once you've done that, I'm going to give you a topic to talk about. I'm going to leave you to talk for a minute or two, and then I'll shout over the dim, stop you, change partners, and give you a new topic to talk about. Okay? Cool. So, first thing, when did you start teaching? When did you start teaching? Move together and take it back.
Then moved back to the LT after being in New York for a couple of years. Interesting. Too many international moves. Yeah. I'm staying here. Good.
Okay, stop. Stop. Thank you. Now, can I bring you up here? Okay, stay just there. That's it. And you move here. Fantastic. Okay, now in a second, wait for it. Wait for it.
Report.
Hello. Okay. No, you don't need the language practice, but a good idea. Okay. Where are you working now, and are they supportive of you trying to do this? Where are you working now? Do they even know you're trying to do this? Where are you working now? Are they supportive of you trying to do this? Okay?
If you're online, I'm hoping, well, for everybody, not just the people who are online, that you saw that there was a getting to know you task right at the beginning, along with the pre-course quiz. That's supposed to help you get a bit of a grasp on things. And this next section should help you slightly with that pre-course quiz if you haven't done it yet. This is a really quick check that you've spotted all the things that would be useful to you in the main Moodle. So a lot of the links that you'll use the most are
there are direct links up here in between the tutor photos. But the place to start each week is with session notes. So there will be 3 areas each week that we cover, and for each area there'll be session notes and some kind of video. The session notes are self-study tasks, things to read and things to do that take you through the area. And the videos are a mix. Most of them are videos of people doing those same activities and tasks at ITI, just to give you a sense of what that felt like. You get a little bit extra in the self-study versions. Sometimes the videos will be like this, where there's a sort of mix of source inputs. These things all appear around lunchtime, usually on whichever Wednesday. So each Wednesday there will be a new set on the topic. So for week 2, you can see further down, and week 3 further down, and so on. So once you've had a look at the input, the session notes, the next thing to think about is projects. You do a project together in a group each week, and when you click on the projects page, it takes you through, and you can see what the projects will be. There's advice about what to do. There's technical things about things like the groups list, how to find your name, which group you're in, instructions, and places to put the finished projects into. Some of these links are already live, some of them aren't live yet, but they'll all be live by the time you actually come to need them. Most things in this course you can either from the top buttons up here, or you can access by going down. So the project access is down here as well. On this week 1 project information, and the groups, the project link, etc. The other thing you need to think about every week, so you've got input, projects, and exam practice. And the exam practice is, again, you can either access it through this page. These links are live at the moment. They will all be live by the time you need them. Some of them, because this is the new course, not yet started. Some of them won't be live when you come into the course. You can either access them from there. You can scroll down. Again, week 1 has its own exam practice. Again, because we're just setting this course up right now, the links haven't appeared here yet, but they will appear here. Your exam practice in place to upload it on that box. The other way to keep in touch with what to do, to remember what I'm saying now, is go back to the frequently asked questions page, and it talks through what you should do each week. If you click on number 3, it takes you down here, and it gives you those links again. It gives you ideas about what you should be doing. This page also gives you the information about decisions about entering the exam. We will mail you when it comes near to the time, probably at the beginning of April is the first time you'll hear from us, and it gives you instructions, especially if you're not in Istanbul, if you're going to enter through a distance centre. It shows you how to do that and gives you links to go and do it from. But there will also be more messages about that when it becomes important, so a little bit nearer the time. There are, as well as the things you should be doing, there are things to try and help you do them. There's a whole page here about how you could study. If you've already got great systems in place from previous experiences, other courses, fantastic. If you're not sure what to do, have a look at this page. It gives you some ideas of different ways of going about things, how to plan, ways you can work with texts, and even simple things like the fact that you actually do need to plan proactively and have some kind of study timetable. The other thing that might help together a bit is that there's an example exam page here. So there are example tasks, there is information about how to study for each task, and these pages also go through and show you when there are sessions that link up with this and which projects link up with each task. So it's a different same things over again. We can help a little bit with reading, as much as we can. If you have a look at any area, you'll find there are links through to reading. We have to respect copyright. So the things we've got here are things like sample chapters from publishers, or those wonderful authors who put their articles up on their own web pages, and we're allowed to link to those. Please be wary of sharing reading if you're not sure whether it's a legal copy or not. We really have to respect copyright within the course itself. If you're sharing things in forums, where did you get it from? If it was from the author's own site, that's great. Or if it's from a sample, that's great. but do think that through before you actually put things into forums. Okay, so those are the things that will help with the direct studying, but you also need a general background of ELT. You need to be able to talk about a variety. Find one of the tasks actually focuses on issues in ELT. So these other things that are down the right or down the left, are supposed to try and help you a little bit with that. They give you links through to the kinds of blogs that talk about areas that are likely to help you. And it's a good idea to get in the habit of picking and choosing some of these, find the ones you like to read, and reading through things reasonably regularly. So on the right, it tends to be EFL writers talking about issues that come up. On the left, it's there's a whole series of things. IATEF always have 15 or 20 of the sessions recorded. So if you prefer your information delivered orally, that's a great source. Have a look at those. There are lists of 10, 15, 20 presentations on each of these links. And the rest of this column, a lot of it's things like vocabulary tools, different things that can help you analyze that you'll need for some of the projects. There are some podcasts on language generally, and then it eventually goes also back into blogs as well. So there's a whole variety of things you can have a look at. Finally, if you need help, if you're feeling lost, if you want some support, if you want ideas about things to do, use the forums. If you go to the forum link and ask questions in the general forum, I will almost always answer you, but sometimes a course mate will know the answer and will get there before I do. If you look at the top right here, you see you can search to see if anyone's asked it before. And once the course gets started, people will be adding questions in this forum, and you'll see questions and responses here.
So if you are feeling a bit lost or you're not sure what to do next, do use the forums. Go to the general forum. I'm online quite a lot and will help. Maybe one of your course mates will help even before I see the question. So asking questions is good, and remember, nobody knows quite what they're doing at this stage in the course. So don't be shy about asking about things. So now, thinking about the exam itself, the next bits are again from that session that you saw some film of earlier, and looking at the terminology tasks, which are tasks 1 and 2 in paper 1.
Your teachers, think about what you would tell your students. Imagine, I mean, this exam is in a lot of ways, it's like trying to take a bunch of students through a first certificate exam. There isn't a specific list of things you need to know. You just need to be able to do and talk about things at a certain kind of a level. So what you need to do will be different for all of you, because you all have different backgrounds, different amounts of knowledge. And as we show you what you need to be able to do in the exam, you're going to realise which areas you need to work on. We end up with people who think that paper 1's a dream, they can sort it, and hate paper 2, and vice versa. Depends on your teaching experience. I would make a weekly plan. I would stick things within my diary, little tasks I can do every day. I'd work out how to fit things into small gaps of time, 5-minute and 10-minute activities that will help me extend my knowledge. And I'd read. I'd use the forums actively, because talking about things, trying to define something, asking what something is, even just writing out the question, helps you develop the voice you need to talk about these things confidently and accurately and concisely when you're writing answers. So I watch the forums all the time. If something is being said in there that's wrong, I will intervene. But if you're talking to each other and it's all just fine and it's exploratory, I want you to talk to each other. I don't need the practice. You need to find ways and develop your voice to talk about these things. Okay? Make a plan. You'd say, think about what you would say to a student at the beginning of an FCE course, yeah? Anything else? Okay. Okay. Now, we're going to start, so what you'll find is there's a mix. Some of the time, we are not going back to that question in a sense. We're not going to teach you everything you know to make the exam. What we're going to try and do is show you the areas of knowledge you need to be able to talk about. Some of you already know some of it, and some of you don't. And we're going to try and show you how to look at it, the kind of places you can look to get that knowledge. But we're not going to take you through every step of everything you've done, because we can't. It's too different for too many of you, and it's too big. Okay. Some of the sessions show you very directly how to apply that knowledge. Again, it's like teaching an exam course. Mostly, if you were teaching exam learners, mostly you want them just to have more words and be better at grammar. Because if they have enough words and they're good enough at grammar, they'll get the exam anyway. It's the same with the Delta. If you've read enough and you've thought about ELT enough, you could wander into the exam and do it and you'd be all right. But also we have some bits of some slots that are about strategy. This is what you need to be able to do in the exam itself and the task, and these are the techniques that will help you the most. So we're trying to mix it up. This is the knowledge, this is the strategy. So the rest of this slot today will be a little bit about strategy. Who's looked at the paper, the example paper?
Yeah.
Okay, how many papers?
2.
Brilliant. How long is each paper?
9 minutes.
Okay. And they're always the same format and they're always the same task style. The first paper always has 5 tasks and the second paper always has 3 tasks. And right now, we're going to look at paper 1, tasks 1 and 2. They're very short, they're very quick, and they underlie a lot of, because it's about terminology, it comes into a lot of the other tasks. So paper 1, tasks 1 and 2, focus you on terminology. Can you talk the talk? Terminology, paper 1, tasks 1 and 2.
18 marks, right? 6 and 12.
Oh, you very happy looking. Okay. And so you need to know terminology. If, in the same way that your learners need to know vocabulary, if your learners said to you, I need more vocabulary, what would you tell them to do?
Use them as often as possible.
And I've just told you to practice and write in the forums and use it. But where would they get it from? If your learner was saying, oh, I don't know enough words.
Reading.
Okay. So, in a perfect world, in order to know the terminology for the Delta tasks, what would you do?
Reading.
And you're going to read extensively. But what's the other way you can partially support your learners with lexis, with vocabulary? Okay, so some more focused, trying to learn it kinds of tasks. So combining the two. In a perfect world, you'd be reading so much about ELT over the next 10 weeks that you would know the terminology by the end. But it can help, it can boost if you start collecting and defining. And the thing that people find hardest is not recognising it. You'll spend a lot of this course going, because you know what the thing is, but you don't quite necessarily know how to say it. That's what Delta One is mostly about. It's about people capturing and being able to articulate things that they kind of know and kind of use, but they need to be able to say. Okay. What terminology would be your next question? Is there a list, do you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have one.
Who said? Oh, that's a lovely book, yes.
That was a link.
Okay, have you learned all the words in it yet?
But I'm trying to make flashbacks.
Okay. Somebody said no.
There's a good book about this, I guess, A to
A to Z.
The other book is the A to Z, yes. Oh, you've got that. We're going to be travelling light, really. Fantastic. Okay.
Also, there was a file on the Moodle that was Roach, I think, or something.
Perhaps that's
Have we got this one?
Encyclopedia.
Have you got that one? It's on the
Ladies and gentlemen, hello.
That was it.
There isn't a list any more than if your first certificate level learner said, is there a list? You'd be able to say yes. If you have a pet or cat learner or a young learner, there's a list because it's limited, yeah? But once you get beyond that, there isn't a list. And it's the same for Delta. There isn't a list, but there are a lot of things that come up quite commonly. So it's no good trying to have a fixed and limited list. But what kinds of things? Yes, both of the books Sean is producing from his bag are wonderful, and you can sidle over to them and have a look and see break. But meanwhile, to give you a feel for the kinds of things you need to know, what I'm going to do is get you to do an activity. Now, half of these are out of that blue book, and half of these are out of that green book, I think.
Bag of tea.
What will you do? I'm going to give you about 3 pages that look like this, and they've got a term and a definition. Have a look. Don't let anybody see them. And when you get them, fold the page so that you can show other people just the term, read the definition and be sure you've got it, that you know what it is. And then in a few minutes, you're all going to stand up and walk around the room and you will show the term to a person and you'll say, what's a minimal pair? Can you define it? Okay, now, he said no. That's fine. It's day one, that's fine, that's good. You wouldn't need to be here if you knew it already. So as he doesn't know it, he needs the definition, so I give it to him. Okay?
I can't really pass the exam.
Far beyond that.
He keeps it. If he gave me a good definition, do I give it to him?
No.
Right, I keep it. The object of the game is to give away your cards. So you keep showing them to people until you find someone who doesn't know the word and you give it to them. Back. So I'll give you, see, if you end up collecting a lot, that's fine, you can take a moment and study them. Alright? It's day one, and you're not expected to know. So I'm going to give you about 3 of these each. Fold them, read the definitions, and wait. And also, it's just a very random selection. I just chose things every 4th or 5th word through. It's not the best list to learn, I promise you. It's just a selection.
Okay.
Okay, I think everybody's ready now. So in a second, you'll stand up, show them the term, ask them to define. Do 1 and 1, and then change partners, find a different person, move around yourselves. If they get the definition right, do you keep the card or give them the card? Keep the card. Okay, super.
I see you.
Right. All of you in the middle, okay? Okay, find somebody, off you go, do it once to one, once to one, once to one.
Very communication.
Position, I don't know.
Yeah, here.
Certainly it's a sort of communication.
Where do we communicate?
Like long.
What do you mean by terminology? I hear you thinking, well, this is the kind of thing that we mean by terminology. And it could be almost anything. But there is some examples in a self-test to try in the tasks for this week.
Stop panicking and trying to write the words down. I took them randomly out of that book and the A to Z. You can find, for example, if you go into the teachers part of the British Council site, they have a great long glossary of terms. You can use ideas from there. If you
These are enough, right?
Yeah, these are more than enough. More than enough.
I guess that's the Bible of that.
Yeah.
No, that's the terminology book.
Yeah.
If you're going to buy one book, it's probably about language. That'll come next week. That's good, that's helpful for Module 1. It gives you a sort of beginning on a whole lot of little things, but it is only a beginning. Okay? And so what should you do? Should you start obsessively trying to learn all the words from the book?
Yes.
Or what would be a more interesting way to do it?
Take a test from yourself and see which ones you know and focus on the ones that you don't know.
Or
and flashcards.
just read and then the ones that you don't know, them up.
Yeah, we're going to give you lots of other things to do. For example, this is going to give you a project to do at the end of the afternoon that you're going to work on with the people online as well. and you need to read about one area for that project. As you're reading, every time you see something you haven't seen before, stop, write it down, you can check the definition later. That would be a much more useful way of going about it. Liz will also do phonology with you after the tea break. Again, in phonology, the first time you do it, you haven't done very much before, you're going to get a whole swathe of new words. It would be more useful to note those down and look them up for yourself. If you just keep listing the words. Also, think about tools you can use. Reading would be great. Keeping some kind of notebook would be great.
Flashcards.
If you like flashcards, go for it. Does anyone use Quizlet with their students?
Yeah.
Okay. Make your own Quizlet set. If you search in Quizlet, you will find Delta Module One sets in there, massive sets. However, as with everything else, is having the set important or is making the set important? If you gave your learners a set of flashcards with words on them, would they know the words? It's doing it that matters. And also, if you use someone else's set, you do not know if they're any good or not. You may be using a set from someone who got a distinction, or you may be using a set that somebody made and they still haven't passed because they've been using it. So you've got to find things that work for you, but I strongly recommend if you're going to go down that route of focusing on the terminology in that way, I would make my own sets, because it's the making of the set that makes it. It's not collecting knowledge. You can get any knowledge these days, easily. It's not collecting the bits, it's using it. If you use it, it'll stay in your head. If you use it, it's of some use to you. That's when the learning happens, when you use it. Okay? Okay.
In marking the exam papers by Cambridge, is there a level of, let's say, being subjective through the answers, or there is a set answer key for each question?
It changes from task to task. As with the exams that you give to your learners, for the terminology tasks, it's pretty clear. For when you're writing the terms for task 1, you have to write the right term. It has to be spelled correctly. You don't get a mark. On part
we use different wording in order to explain the
part
same.
2, when you give the definitions, it's about somebody being able to judge whether you have given the core of the definition or not. We're going to try that now, and we'll come back to your question. Okay?
Okay.
If you haven't got an answer to it in about 15 minutes' time, can we ask it again?
Yeah, fine. Thank you.
Okay. Because what I'm going to do now is give you the practice paper. I am going to give you the practice paper tasks. Task 1. They give you 6 definitions, and you
Write the term.
You write the term. When you do, and there's another one of these. That's exam practice A this week. So after you practice this here, by Sunday night, write your answers, upload them, somebody will mark them. And when they mark them, they will send you notes about strategy. They will say, you're doing this bit right, but watch out for this, you're not doing that in the right way, try and do it this way, okay? Okay, but I'm going to tell you quickly, but don't panic if you can't get it written down, because you'll get the personal advice back anyway. For task 1, when you write down the terms, don't put alternatives, put one answer. Because if you put 2 or 3 possibles and one of them, if one of them's right but the others aren't, the marker can't give you the marks. Because they don't want you randomly putting in a whole bunch of words that it might be. The other thing is that for this task, but only for this task, the spelling matters. If you don't spell it right, you don't get the tick. And the rest of the tasks, as long as your language is comprehensible, the marker is not worrying about things like spelling. But for this task, it does matter, just for the terms. Okay? Because often the letter can make it a different word altogether. Okay, so first 6, they give you the definition, you write the term. Then you get 4. What will happen with the 4, do you think? There are 4 terms here.
You have to define and give an exam.
Exactly. You define it, and that's what people usually need to practice with the most, and give an example of it. Try and do that now. The plan is that you should have got a sense of the kinds of things they ask and the kinds of things you have to write as a response. Was it easy? What's the tricky bit?
Define.
Yes,
Yeah,
saying
defining it
the
properly.
key bit.
It was an easy start, I guess.
Most people find it quite hard to actually define precisely and concisely. What could you do together that would
You try
help?
to guess.
Okay, great, good, go for it. But also there's a way of practicing that you can make it vaguely fun.
Make a game.
You could, for example, you could put up definitions of 3 things in the forum and wait and see if anyone knows what you define. Because if you define them well, you'll get your answer. But if your definition is a bit woolly, you might not get your answer. Okay? So you can do that either among yourselves in small groups, or you're welcome to use the forums. Please, 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 if you're not sure about anything, if you want to know anything, if you have any questions, please use the forums. I love you if you use the forums, because it means I don't have to answer the question lots of separate times. And again, I hear people saying, I don't want to, I'm shy, I'm the only person asking the question. Rubbish. Most of you are sitting out there not sure. The people who use the forums, they're helping everyone else. And the other thing is, if somebody uses the forum and asks good questions and gets good answers, and you're one of the quiet, shy people, occasionally thank them. Because that's the other thing that happens, is I get someone who likes the forums and asks, and then about week 3 they stop talking, and you say, what happened? You were great. Were you? Nobody else is asking. I feel stupid. So if you go and say, oh, good question, thanks for asking, just now and again, they'll keep asking the questions. And if you don't do that, they might end up getting a bit shy and stopping doing it. So it's a good thing to be in the forums.
And the task they were doing is this one. It's the one that you'll find when you go and do the written tasks on this week's topic.